you.
Good morning, Nigeria. Welcome to Daybreak, reaching you live from our studios here in the nation's capital city. I am super excited to be here. My name is Zainab Bala.
And I am Ayub Elia. Thank you for joining us this morning. It's a beautiful morning, really, and thank God it's Friday. As always,
Indeed, thank God it's Friday.
Today ushers us into the weekend, and yes, we are super excited that we have you join us this morning on the show. We'll be taking a look at quite a lot on the show this morning. Discussions about the over-bloated budgetary allocation of the civil service is ongoing, and the cost of running governance. And so we'll be looking at the Orosanya report and the consideration to adopt that report, by the federal government. We'll also be looking at the African Cup of Nations to begin this weekend in Cameroon. So quite a lot of discussions on the program, and as well we'll be taking a look at the front pages to have a sense of what the stories that are making the headlines on our newspapers this morning. And so before that, let's take the news highlights.
All right, President Muhammadu Buhari on Thursday received a briefing from former President Goodluck Jonathan at the presidential villa in Abuja on the political development in the Republic of Mali. A special meeting of ECOWAS, which holds in Ghana Sunday to deliberate on the political situation in Mali, is the subject of the parley between the head of the ECOWAS mediation team, former President Goodluck Jonathan, and President Buhari. In a separate statement earlier issued on Thursday, President Buhari, who also received a special envoy from Colonel Assimi Goita, the transitional president of Mali, promised that Nigeria would do her level best for the sister country within the requirements of ECOWAS. Now, Colonel Abdoulaye Maiga, Mali's Minister of Territorial Administration and Decentralization, led a team which briefed President Buhari on conclusions from the National Conference on State Rebuilding held in Bamako on December 27th, 2021. Now, responding to the comprehensive briefing, the president said nobody could love Mali more than Malians themselves, counseling that everyone should work within the tenets of ECOWAS in order to restore constitutional order to the West African country at the shortest possible time.
All right, now, National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, and the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC, have agreed to strengthen existing partnership and synergy between the two agencies in various areas of operations, especially in the fight against drug abuse and illicit drug trafficking. The commitment was the high point of a courtesy visit by the Commandant General of the NSCDC, Dr. Ahmed Abubakar Audi, to the Chairman, Chief Executive of the NDLEA, Brigadier General Muhammad Buba Marwa, retired, at the Anti-Drug Agency's national headquarters in Abuja on Thursday, 6th January 2022. In his remarks, the NSCDC boss said that he was on the visit to tap from the knowledge and experience of General Marwa in transforming NDLEA within a short time, seek for synergy and collaboration between the two agencies, while noting that he has continued to follow Marwa's antecedents and achievements in public service since he was still a student. In his response, the NDLEA Chief Executive commended the NSCDC boss for bringing to bear his experience and intellectual capacity on the work of the Corps. He said whatever has been achieved in the past year in NDLEA was due largely to the grace of God as well as the commitment of officers and men of the agency.
Armed men loyal to terror kingpin known as Bello Turji, who are displaced by NAF attacks on their enclaves in Kafai Forest in Shinkafi local government area of Zamfara State, are regrouping in another forest in western part of the state. Daily Trust reports that the armed bandits are erecting dozens of new thatched huts in an area inside the forest. Residents say the criminals are moving on motorbikes, with some of them walking and guarding herds of cattle. On Wednesday, the armed men attacked about 5 communities of Kurfan Danya, Kurfan Magajira, Fingiru, Tungar Isa and Barayar Zaki in Bukuyum and Anka local government areas. Now, residents said about 60 people were killed. The villages a few kilometers apart. Residents further said the remains of those killed are being picked for burial. They say a lot of people are afraid to go to deep inside bushes to recover the bodies of the slain persons. But spokesman of the State Police Command, SP Muhammad Shehu, could not be reached for comment up to the time of filing this report.
All right. Now, Federal Road Safety Corps has confirmed the death of at least 19 passengers in a fatal accident involving 2 commercial buses at Bagauda in Bebeji local government area of Kano State. 26 other passengers were also reported to have sustained various degrees of injuries. The accident, according to FRSC sector commander in the state, Zubairu Mato, happened on Thursday morning around 7:25 when the 2 vehicles carrying 45 passengers collided at Bagaudu, close to the Nigerian Law School Kano campus. The sector commander said that the victims are at Kura Central Hospital for the treatment, while all the corpses have been handed to the deceased relatives by the police for burial, while the vehicles involved in the accident have been handed over to Bebeji Police Division in Bebeji local government area of the state.
Now, Kano State Ministry of Planning and Budget has confirmed that the state budget for the 2022 is above the projected available resources as contained in the 2022 to 2024 Economic and Fiscal Update, Fiscal Strategy Paper and Budget Policy Statement due to improvement of new potential areas of internal revenue generation and the capital receipt. Now, addressing a news conference, the State Commissioner for Budget and Planning, Nurat Dankade, approved budget assented by the state governor stands. The 221 billion naira 2022 budget is higher than that of 2021 by 24%.
Budget with news highlights
at the sum of 159 billion 726 million 217,984 naira 68 kobo, which consists of 38 billion 152 million 447,291 naira 68 kobo internally generated revenue, that's the IGR, and 121 billion 573 million 770,693 naira revenue from the Federation account and statutory allocations, as against the 2021 total recurrent revenue of 107 billion 838 million 360,299 naira 78 kobo. By extension, the 2022 recurrent revenue is higher than that of the year 2021 by 51 billion 938 million 978,687 naira 81 kobo, representing an increase slightly higher than 50%. It is equally important to note that the projected internally generated revenue IGR is higher than that of the 2021 by 12 billion 986 million 409,286 naira 21 kobo, representing 34.4% increase.
Well, that does it for news highlights. Now let's take a look at the events of the 7th of January in world history.
Well, there you have it. Today in history, quite a number of issues really there. In 1610, Galileo Galilei discovers the Galilean moons. So the Italian astronomer spotted the 4 largest moons of Jupiter that day, and then 10 Europa, Ganymede and Callisto. And then also we have in 1927, the first transatlantic telephone service is established. Now, a 3-minute call between New York and London cost about $45 US, which is roughly $550 in today's dollar. So you can imagine how we have evolved over the time. Now, when yesterday we talked about telegraph. So yesterday was telegraph. Today, the transatlantic telephone. What started as a means of communication just between blocks, now later transited into different locations. So that's quite huge as far as technological advancement is concerned. Now, in 1785, you have the hot air balloon crosses the English Channel. French inventor Jean-Pierre Blanchard took about 2.5 hours to fly from Dover, UK to Guinness in France. So these are some of the historical events in our world history today. Now, straight up, we'll be taking a look at the stories that made the headlines this morning on our newspapers shortly after this breather. Please stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that a person look like the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
because I have said that. But in a situation where you find that a person look like the same,
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
because I have said that.
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the Trust TV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search Trust TV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
All right, now we'll be taking a look at the stories that made the headlines on our papers today, and we'll begin with Daily Trust newspaper. There you have it, as always, coming through. The lead story on the Daily Trust newspaper, you see the new branding. Terrorists kill dozens in Zamfara villages. So it's no longer bandits, following the gazetting by the federal government and tagging of the bandits as terrorists. So we no longer recognize them as bandits, but terrorists. So terrorists kill dozens in Zamfara villages. The writer says attackers using locals as human shield. Turji, others moving to new abodes. Also there, you'd see the pictorial showing you the former President Goodluck Jonathan yesterday visiting President Muhammadu Buhari alongside other delegates from the ECOWAS, the AU, regarding the dialogue about Mali crisis. And then beside that, you see Taraba youths chase away strangers. You also see Magodo, 38-year-old land tussle beyond Sanwo-Olu, police encounter. So that's that. Other stories there. 19 killed in Kano road crash. Quite a tragic one. And then below the pictorial, 2023, anxiety in APC as Jonathan meets Buhari twice in 7 days. You'd find also the writers. It's conspiracy to make ex-president consensus candidate, Tinubu's group. Aggrieved members threaten showdown over plots to shift convention. Real reason president didn't disclose his candidate, Osinbajo promoters. So this conversation about the former president hobnobbing to be put as the candidate in the APC is becoming louder and louder every day. Other stories on the front page, at the very top, you see opposition can sack APC if we don't agree on convention. That's Buhari. COVID-19 kills 27 Nigerians in 5 days. And then you see also on page 17, private sector kicks over 10 naira per litre excise duty on non-alcoholic beverages. These are the major stories on the Daily Trust this morning.
Okay, let's take a look at other stories on the Punch newspaper this morning. The lead story there, Super Tucano deployment. NAF plans bandit bombardment. Allays fears over civilian casualties. US warns federal government. We see bandits here. Well, some would say to take quite a while for people to actually adjust. Now, the riders there, military to target forests, bandit camps, not civilian areas. Usage must conform with international norms. US tells federal government. And you see a pictorial there that shows the demolition of some structures under high-tension pylons along Akilo Road, Ogba, by the Lagos State government on Thursday. And other stories there on page 23, federal government spent $1.68 billion on food import in 9 months. This is according to the CBN. On then page 13, APC entrenched interests plotting to demarket me, fire me alleges. PDP will take over if APC leaders fail on convention. That's according to President Buhari. And federal government will merge agencies, won't sack workers, says finance minister. Now, this will be a topic for discussion later, and you get to hear some perspectives on that issue. Now, on page 12, you'd see on uniformed persons causing tension in Olubadan succession, Balogun is next. That's according to Ladoja. Lagos community decries cemetery invasion by suspected ritualists, robbers. That's quite tragic. But you find the details of that story on page 4 and page 5 of the Punch newspaper. Responses to my presidential bid overwhelmingly encouraging. That's according to Anyi. These are some of the major stories on the Punch newspaper this morning.
All right. Take a look at the Blueprint newspaper this morning. A number of stories. The lead story, for instance, says, joining APC won't save corrupt politicians from trial. That's according to the president. It has quite a number of riders. Let's put our house in order to starve off PDP's 2015 woes. He insists he won't be a kingmaker in 2023. Says long working hours telling on him, I expect Nigerians to give me pat on the back. Warns governors against imposing candidates. That's all of that on page 6 of the Blueprint newspaper. At the very top, you see police arrest man, accomplish faking self-kidnap in Gombe. UTME, direct entry forms not yet on sale. That's according to JAM. EFCC rescues 2,220 convictions in 2021. Our confidence in new Gaya Emir unshakable. Bello Gaya Goba. Don't be distracted by political traducers. Monarchs tell Oyetola. And then below the big picture, federal government plans agencies merger, assures workers won't be disengaged. And then you see at the bottom there, 60 killed as bandits, aka terrorists, burn down 5 Zamfara communities. And then you see also IFC Malls, $3 million investment in Nigeria tech startups. Ayade, PDP, Bika, over 100 billion naira embezzlement allegation. So these are the stories on the front page of Blueprint this morning.
Okay, let's take a look at what's happening on the Nation newspaper. The lead story there, Buhari to APC, intra-party rift, invitation to PDP victory. The red is there. Delayed convention risky, says president. no cover for corrupt politicians in the APC. And other stories, no plan to sack workers, says federal government. Minister recants. Defense headquarters to politicians, don't wear military camouflage to campaign rallies. You'd also find other stories there that states Oyetola to run for second term. Ladoja backs Balogun as Olubadan designate. And you'd also see 2 million Nigerians get 10 billion monthly stipends. Shell eyes $3 billion from sales of assets. These are some of the stories on The Nation.
All right. Let's take a look at the next paper, talking about this day, The Guardian rather, this morning. Okay. I seem to have a bit of... All right. On The Guardian this morning, you have the first story there at the top, above the big picture, says, I have given my best to Nigeria, says Buhari. You would find details of that on page 2. And then the lead story talks about 10 years after Occupy Nigeria, Buhari battles fuel subsidy. It has the riders, FG plans subsidy for transport workers, Osinbajo to meet NLC on palliatives, says Finance Minister. Expensive lifestyle of government doesn't support subsidy removal. Then you have Afenifere, UPU, YCE, ACF, others decry planned removal, say it's a move to kill the masses. And then well, quite a number of stories there at the bottom. Ladoja acknowledges Balogun as next Olubadan. You will also see gunmen abduct 6 ex-SSG's children, escort driver in Taraba. You have also 19 die, 26 injured in Kano auto crash, and then gunmen invade Imo police station, destroy offices. These are the stories that we're looking at on The Guardian this morning.
Right, in the studio we have the editor of 21st Century Chronicle, Nuruddin Abdullah, to give us perspectives on some of the stories that made headlines this morning. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you. Good morning.
All right. Let's begin with the Daily Trust newspaper. Now, the story that actually caught my attention and is quite controversial is about the one stating 2023 anxiety in APC as Jonathan meets Buhari twice in 7 days. Now, there are speculations that they're trying to pick Jonathan, you know, for the candidacy of the APC.
Yes, and I think based on the story, I see that there are two camps. The one leading the bunch of other politicians complaining about the visit. But from a non-political perspective, I think the Osinbajo, the Asiwaju, Tinubu camps, they should go to sleep for now. They shouldn't forget that President Jonathan, or rather the former president, you know, is the special envoy of Nigeria to Mali. And you know, that Mali issue is still ongoing. And from time to time, he comes to the presidential villa to brief the president over that matter. Even though there are insinuations in some quarters that the APC polybro, you know, now there should be powers to the shift, who shall we hand over to? So the speculation is that they should pick Jonathan. And Jonathan has only 4 years. You know, he won't do 8 years because they are afraid that if Tinubu is handed over, if power is handed over to Tinubu or Osinbajo, those guys will be there for 8 years, you understand? But Jonathan has only 4 years to complete. And maybe from his antecedents, they believe that somebody that you can, he's a gentleman. Maybe they will have an agreement, do 4 years. After that, he will not come back to us. Because, you know, these people have been here now for 8 years, and they believe that they can control all the levers of political power, which is impossible. based from experience. You understand? So that is it. And the same political blocks in the North did the same thing to Obasanjo when Nigeria returned to democracy after Abacha's death. The military then, particularly Abdul Salami, the IBBs, you know, look at it now. There was June 12th, there was just agitations. How can we settle the matter? And that was why Obasanjo, who was serving a lifetime in prison, you know, was dusted up, brought out, granted amnesty. They paid his debts, they bankrolled his campaign, and they put him there to serve for only 4 years. But don't forget that Nigerian presidency is not a small matter. The moment, no matter how naive somebody is, if you put him there, he's there for 4 years. It's not an easy thing. But Obasanjo continued. Or rather, he revolted against the powers that put him there. So maybe they will make the same mistake with Jonathan. Mike Hugh, Jonathan was there the last 4 years. He had his lieutenants, he has his advisors. He realizes most of his mistakes. Now by the time he returns, the same advisors will come back. He will try as much as possible not to repeat the mistake he made from one era in the 6 years he served as president and what have you. And that tells you even that the fact that these two groups and many others are complaining, it shows you the likely implosion in the ruling APC. The president spoke day before yesterday. There are so many camps. Their problem now is not the PDP. The problem now is the many camps within the ruling party. Like you, the President Buhari won't be on the ballot by 2023.
And now the man at the center says that, look, I'm not going to be a kingmaker in 2023, coming from the interviews that we've heard him granted, you know, some TV channels. You know, he has insisted that, look, I'm not even going to disclose, you know, my successor. I'm not even interested. That's what he said, you know, from those interviews. What's the implication of that, you know, on the politics of the party in this 2022 going forward?
Those who know Buhari know that this is going to happen. I don't see President Buhari going from state to state campaigning for his successor, whoever the APC picks. No. He won't be like Obasanjo. From his antecedent, that's how he works. I mean, age, his health challenges and what have you. And again, he will try as much as possible to immune himself from the crisis that will unfold. Is it the ministers? Is it the Buhari boys, the AMPP, CPC, group in the APC? Or is it the Buni group? Or is it the Erufai group? Is it the Bola Tinubu group? Is it the Osibanjo group? Or is it the general group, the dark horse? People are talking about former President Jonathan. People are talking about the president of the African Development Bank, Additional. There are so many dark horses. Look at Additional's people are equally working. Saying that, okay, let's bring a technocrat, somebody who can move with all the camps. You understand? A non-politician for
And it looks like the predictions of political watchers, you know, is coming to reality now about the fact that APC, the way the APC came together, you know, back in 2015 and, you know, put forward the president who now emerged as president, and that they are saying that, look, once the president gives way, the party is likely going to collapse. Definitely,
because look at the confusion now. In the villa, we have the Buhari groups. We're talking about the Malamis, the Adamu Adamu, the Sadia, Mohammed, and co, who believe that they have been with the president right from the TBO days, down to APP, AMPP, CPC, and now APC. And, you know, they align with the so-called cabal, you know, the Buhari's original constituency, the Mamman Daura's, the so-called Kaduna Mafia group, which is now being headed by Malam Mamman Daura, you know, Carrier, it's normal. Then you're talking about the Erufais. You remember, after the interview, you remember what Fahimi said. There's Erufai Fayemi angle. There is Tinubu angle.
Not forgetting the vice president.
The vice president is campaign machinery is in full throttle, because that he was lame, but they say no. This is politics, Mr. Vice President. You shouldn't behaving. You stop behaving like a pastor. So that is it. So all these things will come into play, and the governors, minus even the Buni, are saying no. We should be the right people to produce who will succeed President Buhari. So this confusion, and there will be alignment and realignment. There will be implosion, definitely. That is it. Provided Buhari won't be on the ballot, it's enough confusion for the APC. Fayemi now is accusing some entrenched interest in APC who are out to defame him, to drag his name in the mud ahead of 2023. So, all these things.
Now, we're also seeing, aggrieved members worried about the shifting of the convention date. They're thinking maybe there's a fishy move going on.
Yes, unlike the PDP, maybe they have been there for long, so, despite their problems, remember, this is not the first time that they have problems about the secondaries issue. You remember before the secondaries emerged, the Mokaripi, Modu Sharif crisis that almost rocked the party. But, they have their way of solving their own problems, unlike the APC. Yes, because the convention will be the last straw that will bring the cameras back. That is why the anxiety over to hold the convention or not. They want to put it closer to the presidential primaries, so that if the camp that belongs to Hajia Zainab did not succeed, you will have limited time to plot another graph, or that of Mr. Ilya, enough time. But if you do the convention, let's say February, March, April, May, June, there will be enough time for all these disgruntled camps to plot the graphs, to pitch their tent with other forces, even outside the party. So that is it. Yeah. Because the convention, whoever takes over, whoever get the political levers at the convention will determine who becomes the presidential candidate.
Now, also very important is the fact that many people believe that once it is election eve, like this year, mostly focus shifts, from governance, and pressing issues, and on back to politics, and so Nigerians at the end of the day end up suffering, for it. So, what do you see happening to some of the policies that this government is proposing in this year, talking about the 2022 budget, and we have this conversation about the removal of the fuel subsidy, like the Minister of Finance has been proposing, and the implication of that actually on the 2023 election?
Usually, if you observe, particularly from 1999 to date, governors or political leaders at all levels work during their first year, their second year. The budget, like this 2020 budget, is actually what we call a political budget. Because the implementation, if for instance we normally have implementation, let's say 45 or maybe 50 or 55% on critical issues, most of these things now will be going to funding political activities at the federal, states, and even the local government level. We're in January now. If maybe you do this story, for instance, ask your reporter across the states and find out. Even the most serious governors, there are governors that don't stay in their states. They're always in Abuja or Lagos. Let's start the count and see within a month how many times does a governor stay. It's all about movement. Now with COVID, they don't longer go to Dubai. If not, the governor will just disappear on whatever reason, maybe 3 weeks, all plotting who gets what ahead of 2016. So the same thing with the budget. The budget, because they don't think about what they will do to the public. They are looking at the future most of these governors, remember, are in their second and last tenures. So what do I get after leaving office? Is it the Senate seat, who is now a retirement home for former governors? Or if you are a senator now, okay, after I have been in the Senate maybe in the last in the last 12 years, what happens to me? I should either get the vice presidency or I should go back and lead my state. I can't just go back home. I can't vanish into oblivion. So that is it.
Isn't that an ideology we've actually put in our heads? Is that how it's supposed to be?
No, that's not the ideal thing, but that's the reality. Look at it. And it is because of the way the offices are meant to be. You spend 8 years as governor. You don't know your finances. Whatever you want, you get. So you mean then I will just retire, I will just leave office and go home and sleep? No. I should come to the Senate at the minimum. If I can get the vice president because it's only one slot, or I should have to fight hard to ensure that my friend, Mr. Elia, becomes the president, so that I becomes FCT minister, works minister, or power minister, or what have you. But I just can't go back to my people. No.
And what happens to even seeing 4-year tenures ending? You know, the Constitution allows for 4 years tenure, right? So if re-elected, you come back for another 4 years. You know, so but in most cases, we haven't seen people who do 4 years and then the tenure ends. Most times, they come back, and we see the kind of drama that happens, you know, during the politics, you know, and the campaign and all that.
So at the very moment you are elected, sworn into office, that's the very day you will start plotting for your second term. Yes, that is the reality. It is not the ideal situation. How do you do that? All the appointments you are going to make will reflect the next election season. You have to bring people that will work for you. Maybe the first appointment, if, for instance, now I become a governor, courtesy Zainab, who is my godmother in that case, right, or his godfather, then maybe she will give me a list. What is happening in Gombe? There are people who won't be governor if not because they were installed or imposed by their political godfathers. But during the first second year, they have to be thinking of and they have to revolt.
But are we really going to move away from political godfatherism?
Very not in the near future, because two things. Political power, you know, is being controlled by these power blocks. You have to grovel to them to get it. It is not about how educated you are. It is not about your vision. No. If these people don't endorse you, you will get nowhere. That is it. And that's why I'm talking about direct or indirect promos. Just look at it. No, these political oligarchs are there. There are states certain people must endorse you.
How can Nigeria free itself, you know, from these, you know, cabals, you know, if you may? Because apparently it's not helping Nigeria's democracy. We have, you know, people who are good enough, people who have integrity, people who merit the offices, but are not able to see the light of day because of these cabals. So how can Nigeria free itself from these cabals? We've been talking electoral amendment, we've been talking independent candidature and the likes. What's going on?
Maybe another thing you didn't say is not too young to wrong. Exactly. When they did it, I was laughing. I said, no. Yes, the same cabal, their kids will return from MIT, from Dubai, what have you. They will be the beneficiaries of this not too young to wrong. Not you and me. Because two things. It is not about age. It's about who is bankrolling you. Somebody somewhere who has political power, who has so much money, has to clear the ground for you. He has to make phone calls. In fact, by the time you return, you have a son who returned from MIT, US, and whatever, you know, you have to, okay, next, I want you to go to the House of Reps After maybe 2 years or 1 year, you come and govern the state. Even the social contacts. Okay, in that case, I want you to marry the daughter of so and so. It's a political realignment. So that you soften the ground. How many young men from nowhere were elected into political office, even appointed, mere political appointment? No, look at them. By the time I become a Senate president, look at the list of their aides. The surnames are
Children of friends.
children, of course. There are so many children of governors who are special advisors, special assistants to Senate president, to deputies. Even in the villa, there are familiar names. The surnames are familiar. It's the same family. But unfortunately, the electorate, up till tomorrow, unfortunately, they are still fighting, killing, even destroying their own property because of these people. Go to Kano, the Ganduje Konkoso field. Sometimes it takes violent dimensions. Now, because of some political realities, these people are now consulting, saying that they are going to reconcile. So I've been at loggerhead with you. We are even not speaking terms. I know a family that are Konkosia fanatics and some are Gandujia. They are not even speaking terms. But now their godfathers are coming together. So what becomes of me and you?
So does this really mean that there will never be a day when somebody who is a nobody, particularly a young person from the grassroots, will see the light of day in the political space?
Not, like I said, not in the near future, because even if it's nobody from the grassroots with no money out of you, but he has the competence, a political godfather has to pick him up. Yes, that's the reality. And he has to do the biddings of that political godfather. Talk to most of these governors. If you veer off from what they put it there for you, you are in trouble. Your second time will not be guaranteed. And people will be telling you, Mr. Ilya, what is the problem? Being a governor is not a joke. What will the people do? Yeah, you can do certain things for people, but follow him. If you disagree with him, the ship will capsize and you'll be thrown out. So that is why, go to Gombe, go to Kano, go to, people that won't be governors were imposed on the people. Others were banned. The godfather imposed certain things and they turn against them. And they will make the state very ungovernable. But the public, general public, I think going forward, we should realize that the politicians, irrespective of the party they claim to belong to, the faith they claim to profess, the region where they come from, the languages, they are one and the same. They meet, they dine together, they wine together. And look at even the marriages, they cross in Kano, Our governor's daughter was married to another person, which we believe. It's all 2023. She is now a special assistant to Speaker of the House of Reps. The same lady. And so many other things. So the young people of Nigeria have to realize that the political class, whether they are PDP, APC, ABGA, or what have you, whether they are Northerners, Southerners, whether they are Muslim, Christians, or even animists, they are one and the same. They have only one ideology. They have only one motive: dominating the political scene, as well as appropriating the resources, the scarce resources, to themselves. So when we realize that, dying for them, who risks for them? The same young men whose parents have been impoverished, who were not given quality of education, are the same that are being used as thugs. Do you see a governor's son leading an army of thugs during election? No. They don't vote. the time when it is particularly 2023, it will be extremely volatile. They will send them abroad. They only watch through TV, Twitter, and what have you. They don't follow their parents to campaign rallies, no. It is the same children of the poor who are what they are today because of the misgovernance, because of the artificial poverty imposed on them that are being used as stocks. Go to Kano now. Anything Konkoso Ganduja as if it's a judgment day. But now the two people are in speaking terms now, trying to come together. What becomes of them? Go to social media. I see how these people are on Konkoso, Ganduja, whatever. And the worst part of it is, even the educated ones, if you look at our social media space, even people educated. I was telling somebody, at least I'm educated. So I shouldn't be a political talk of any politician. I can still walk and get whatever I get because I'm educated. I don't need to align. I don't need to be because there are two types of talks: cyber talks and the real talks.
The soldiers, the ground troops.
The ground troops. Even the educated ones are cyber talks, saying all manner of things. 2015, I remember. Now the same people are with Buhari now. There are people, because of President Buhari at that time, they block us even on social media. And what if you? But I say no. The issue is simple. I'm not saying I am for Ilya. No. What Ilya stands for is what I am with. I am not with Ilya just like that. There are certain policies I believe are good for the public. And that's what I stand with you. The moment you deviate from those things, it is not about individual.
So as we prepare for the 2023 elections, do you think Nigerians have actually learned any lesson through this time?
Yeah, but with the level of poverty, check the media space. All manner of youths now have been because of poverty and because of even lack of ideology, they don't believe in themselves. Desperation for quick money, they form all manner of associations to defraud the politicians. Look at now, Osibanjo has been dragged into the political campaign by force. And what that means is he has to be foiling money to these groups. So, and all these things, are done by the people who should be working or who should be thinking ahead. But sometimes don't blame them because of the political situation. Most of them are graduates, but without jobs. So that is it. So we think that things will change a bit. President Buhari won't be on the ballot. Because if the president is on ballot, it's a one-way thing. So now at least the political space will be so much charged. There will be so many variables, so many interests, and whatever. So we hope maybe a technocrat may come.
Okay. All right. All right. Let's take a quick break now, and then when we come back, we'll be continuing the discussion on the program. Please stay with us.
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the Trust TV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search Trust TV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
All right, welcome back. If you are just joining us, this is Daybreak on Trust Television. Now let's kick-start our first discussion on the program. The federal government is planning to downsize the civil service. Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, explained that the downsizing is aimed at cutting the cost of the government's recurrent expenditure yearly. She disclosed that the federal government is working on an exit package for workers that would be affected. Now, in a statement, the minister said the government has set up a committee to review the collapse of agencies using the Stephen Oronsaye report. However, during the interview on NTA Good Morning Nigeria program on Thursday, the minister refuted speculations that the government was planning to lay off workers to save funds. Ahmed further stated that the president has also directed the minister to pay salaries of government workers. Two contradicting statements by the minister within 24 hours. Now we still have Nuruddin Abdullah, editor, 21st Century Chronicle, to give us his perspectives on this issue. Now, if the federal government can save 241 billion if the Stephen Oronsaye report is properly implemented, are you in line with that?
The money is too small, if I put it that way. The saving they're talking about. And you mentioned for contradictory statements within some days by the minister, It's understandable. 2022 is an election year. So downsizing, sack of workers. I hope they do it. Oronsaye report is not new. Buhari has spent 6 years now, conservatively. Jonathan even made the Oronsaye report. Jonathan has been there for about 6 years. Yar'Adua started it. One of the most beautiful piece of work that ever been done. But the white paper was out, but no political will to implement it. At the end of the day, even the Oronsaye himself, was involved in so many other things after that beautiful work he did. Why politicians are finding it difficult to implement the Oronsaye report is clear, because the economy, we are running a heavily tilted, the economy is tilted to political offices. This is, you can see that by the proliferation of federal agencies. Not because of the mandate, their mandate, or what they are out to do. No, simply because to employ people. I am a minister, you are a senator, you are a director, you are a PAMSEC, and what have you. So you need to create more agencies so that you bring the people, or your people from the village, to fill them up. Nothing else. That was why, over 10 years, in the last 10 years, they couldn't have the guts to implement the Oronsaye report. Look at it now. If we have a problem, instead of addressing the problem headlong, we have a problem of insecurity, maintenance of law and order, which is the primary role of the police. And they have another arm, financial crimes and what have you. Is it the D department that was based in Alagbon at that time? It was the arm that deals with financial crimes. When Obasanjo came, he created EFCC and removed that financial crime aspect and handed it over to EFCC. Not only that, he created ICPC instead of overhauling the police, ensuring that the right people were recruited, trained, and given the manpower, given the right training, the right hardware, the right remuneration. He created EFCC and ICPC. More than 20 years after, we are still battling distance. The same thing when the police cannot police our critical infrastructures, destruction of pipelines, you remember? thefts of cables, electrical cables, and what have you. Civil defense was created. They were armed. The problem remains. It is the job of the police that they took away. But the problem remains. So that is the problem. Instead of clinically dealing with this problem, you created all manner of layers of agencies to tackle the same problem.
So why do you think they've decided to implement that at this point?
Don't say implement that. Implementation of Oresanya report simply means sacking workers. Yes, I read the report, not once, not twice.
Well,
it simply means sacking workers.
Well, the federal government said they are
And
not
laying them off.
sacking
So they are
workers.
not doing that. It simply means that they are not implementing the report.
How about merging of these agencies? For instance, the report, it says that it established that there are 541 federal government parastatals, commissions and agencies. 263 of the statutory agencies should be reduced to 161, and that 38 agencies should be abolished completely. 52 agencies should be merged. We also have 14 should revert back to departments in ministries. These are some of the things that the report established. So in doing so, it's almost impossible to avoid sacking of workers, isn't it?
If imagine, let's look at it this way. Imagine the Guardian, the Nation, the Sun leadership with trust to produce one daily trust now maybe. And you say you don't sack workers? These papers all have editors. They have deputy editors. They have assistant editors. They have politics editors, what have you. By the time you streamline, you still have one editor. So what happened to the remaining editors?
And maybe
is
the
there no
paid
need to
package will be
expand?
for those who would actually want to leave voluntarily because
That
of
was what
measure.
Oresanya did. I remember at that time, about 3 different packages. If voluntarily you are within this age bracket, spending so, yes, this is your package. And in fact, there were even arrangements to give people hand-on training on how to live outside the service. Oresanya report is more than 10 years old, remember. So many things have changed after it. There are more than 700 federal agencies now. I remember not long ago, at the end of the Saraki regime, the Senate alone passed, the National Assembly alone passed laws to the 2 houses that created more than 28 federal agencies. In the last 6 years of Buhari, how many tertiary institutions were created by the National Assembly? In the region of hundreds of them. They were not captured by the Oresanya report. So if you look at, so the Oresanya report is even a cake now. There are more than, yes, hundreds, at least more than 300 agencies were created after he submitted this report. Just look at this Senate, this National Assembly from 2019 to date. How many universities, colleges of education, polytechnics, federal medical agencies, and what have they created?
So
the number is
issue of
huge.
implementation, there's probably needs to start reviewing,
Exactly.
updating, that report.
The report needs to be updated. And when I mentioned of election year, a government that wants to remain in power is trying to implement Oresanya report. And that's why the Hajia was confused. Yes, because Oresanya report means more workers will be sacked. Come to think of it, let's say in this organization, you have, let's say, 3 or 5 vehicles with drivers, you understand, utility vehicles. And you have 20 drivers. How does that happen? Yes, I have somebody who comes from the village, he's doing nothing, and he has been on my neck. Please, he can drive. You employ him. That is it.
It's almost as if each time there's a conversation about unemployment, the government thinks about, let's create more agencies to employ people.
That is it. Simple, that is it. Because we go elsewhere, go to North America, go to Europe. Private organizations do the employment. How many people are even in government? You make the money in your private, and you come to, you seek political power. But the reverse is the case. That is why presently there is no senatorial district. We have 109 that has no new federal agency, federal tertiary institution. They call it medical colleges, they call it agri colleges, they call it women universities, they call it children's universities. It's a competition.
Well,
the same thing with the House of Reps.
Truly. Well, we have to end the discussion here. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you very
us your
much.
Perspectives. We've been speaking with Nuruddin Abdallah. He's the editor, 21st Century Chronicle, here in the studio. We look forward to having you again.
Thank you.
All right. Let's take a quick break now, and then when we come back, we'll continue this discussion about the Oronsaye report. Please stay with us.
The board and management of Media Trust Limited invites the general public to its annual Daily Trust Dialogue, themed 2023, The Politics, Economy and Insecurity. Date, 20th January 2022. Location, NAF Conference Center and Suites, Abuja. Time, 10 a.m. prompt. Chairman of the occasion, former Head of State General Abdulsalami Abubakar, GCFR. Guest Speaker, Governor of Kaduna State Malam Nasir Ahmed El-Rufai. Guest Speaker, Governor of Ebonyi State Engineer David Umahi. Guest Speaker, former Chairman Federal Inland Revenue Service Mrs. Ifueko Omoigui Okauru. Moderator, Executive Director Daria Media Nigeria Limited Kadariya Ahmed. The event will be transmitted live on Trust TV, and all participants must observe COVID-19 protocols and wear their face masks.
Reacting to the alleged demolition exercise, the rights activist Patrick Iholo, in an exclusive interview, said there is no wisdom in the reason advanced by the Edo State government for the demolition of the about 100-year-old health facility, adding that it is the only hospital that the middle class and the indigent poor get access to medical care.
It was disheartening to me when I went to specialist hospital to visit the sick and at least assist them with the little I can in this Christmas period, during the time of my celebration of my birthday. And I saw the hospital being taken apart, and I said, are they doing construction to accommodate the sick? But it surprised me that I was told that he's going to build a sort of I thought we have resolved it. He's building a museum. But if you go to 1999 Constitution, subsection 14, it clearly tells you that the people come first. That's the basic of democracy. That's the foundation. The people come first. Because without the people, there's no government. So I'm surprised that as a technocrat, overrated governor, does not know the meaning of a hospital.
On the issue of the alleged sale of the State Library, a public social amenity by the state government, Iholo highlighted the importance of a library in a society and called on the state government to put a halt to the signing of Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, as none has been implemented over the years.
Things seem to be wrong and things are not working well and I'm stressed. I took refuge in the library to read the little that I read today, that I get to know today. And the pathetic part of it is that most of the elite you have in this state today, they all read in that library. They all were informed in that library. And what now happened? Why can't they speak? How can we have a brain drain in our state? How can you be selling a library to replace an investment coming from South Africa, whether it's ShopRite or ShopWrong? How dare you? And nobody's speaking? And yet, Godjo Obaseki cannot give us another library before he destroys the only existing library. Something is wrong.
Meanwhile, following hues and cries from members of the public and the opposition party APC in Edo State, late last year, The state government said it was relocating and not demolishing the health facility. Nafisa Bello, Trust TV News, Benin.
All right, thank you for staying with us. And if you're just joining, you're watching Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital here in Abuja. Now, we have in the studio Ayo Oyalu, who is an economist, and he will also be talking to us and giving us his own perspectives on the recent effort to cut down the cost of governance here in Nigeria, and taking from the statement of the Minister of Finance, talking about the Oronseye report. Good morning and welcome to the studio.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Well, apparently, it's clear now to everyone that Nigeria cannot continue in the direction it's going, looking at the cost of running governance. It's a discussion we've had almost forever. The Oronseye report itself is more than 10 years now, and some are of the view that is in fact obsolete. So how do we reconcile, the current realities and that report?
Well, thank you once again. I know people will say it's obsolete, you need to update, which is normal. I mean, life itself is about continuous movement. There must be dynamism. What you do today, you have to review. That's why you always have what you call the rolling plan, maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years, mid-term, long-term, short-term, and so on and so forth. So starting from somewhere, it's already a good sign. Even though I would say it took too long. However, starting is the most difficult part. When you start, you begin to improve over time. So I really don't think it's a bad one. In fact, if left to me, I think this particular government started a bit too late to start implementing that. However, it took a lot of courage to do this. It is very clear to anyone discerning, you realize that we've had too many agencies duplicating efforts of another agency. So trying to merge some of them and remove a few of them, it's the way to go.
Okay.
It's the way to go.
Now, if implementing the Oronseye reports means sacking workers, but the federal government is saying it's not going in that direction,
I think
how would this actually work?
You should tone down on that language of sack. Maybe you will say reforming and then right sizing.
Should we say layoff? Is there any better way of saying it?
Well, the truth still remains that I have not seen the white paper. I mean, the report is there. The white paper will tell whether they will sack or not. However, even if they will sack, I'm sure there must be some human face to it. People should be offered something very decent and reasonable to make it easy for their exit so that they can find other things to do. See, whether we like it or not, the truth remains that government cannot continue to be the biggest employer of labor. What we need to be asking for, and which we are not doing, is something I was reading before you told me to start. It's about how foreigners have taken over our ports in terms of management of the port. You see, Nigerians keep thinking, and I think it's a function of the type of education we give to our people. We need to completely overhaul that sector. People should not graduate from school and the only option left for them is to work with government or in a government agency. The best economy today is run by private sector in the world. Government should not be the major one running. What the government needs to be doing and what we need to tell government to do is to create enabling environment for businesses to thrive. If businesses thrive and the private sector is doing very well, then there will be less need for government to be the biggest employer of labor. There will be less need for young people to want to think, to not be able to think outside the box, and all they are thinking about is to work in this agency or to work in that agency.
So maybe why we have a lot of focus and pressure on government right now is because maybe most of the people that graduated see no opportunities.
That is what I just said now.
To work with the private sector.
That is why I'm just saying that it is because our educational system is, we never upgraded it, we never overhauled it. What the colonialists left for us was a system to train people who can work in mid-level to low-level clerks and workers. And when we took over government in 1960 and we became a republic in 1963, some of the things we should have done is to change our educational system. Although I think they tried that in some, I think it must be during Babangida time when they did that, the 6334 and all this stuff, but we never implemented it properly.
Is it just about the educational system?
Yes, it is.
It looks to me that no matter how educated one is, and no matter
you are still not getting my story. I was reading something recently, right?
You need that environment, where you have investors
but I just said it now.
That kind of system.
We don't need to argue this. What did you hear? What I said earlier on? I said what the government needs to do is to create enabling environment. I said it. I'm not exonerating government.
No, you were talking about the educational sector.
If we now have people who are well trained to be more entrepreneurial, to be more, to be able to think better outside the box. Somebody thought and created Daily Trust newspaper, isn't it? And then from newspaper you created a television, and that is why you guys are working here. Now that is what I'm talking about. So if you have more of this doing well, maybe there will be less focus on wanting to go and work in the government TV. That is what I'm trying to say. You will have more private sector driven economy.
But shouldn't there be innovation in the public sector as well?
Well, how many innovations have you seen? Because the system is designed so that there will be no innovation. That is why we must de-emphasize the need to work for government. Now you are getting what I'm saying. When we de-emphasize it, government will still be there as more as a regulator, not as a player in the system. You get my point? Okay, let me give you another example. We have the CBN, which is supposed to be the banker of the bankers, isn't it? And then Nigeria's economy has needed the government to intervene. What the CBN should do is to either enable or create agencies to work in the development sector. Do you get my point? But what have we seen in the last few years? I'll tell you. We needed intervention in the agricultural sector. Is that not so? Rather than the CBN tried to create some agencies, but because they all failed, or they are not living up to expectation, in the last few months, you have seen CBN directly intervening in agriculture, directly giving out loans to farmers. Now, you know where the problem is in this? You know where? You should ask me. The problem is, when you are the regulator, who regulates the regulator? Why the CBN created those agencies is because it will be able to regulate them, it will be able to audit them, then there will be accountability. But when the CBN itself deliberately intervenes at the lower end, at the last end, giving the loans, who audits these loans? Do you get my point now? So there has been no innovation in the private sector, in the public sector. It has always bogged down to corruption, over-bloated system, inefficiencies, and so on and so forth. So for me, this is good if it is properly implemented. Okay. And like I also said, when you started your question, one of the things you said is that people will say it has gone stale or it's gone out of date. There must be constant innovation. There must be dynamism. What makes your newspaper doing well is because of what I just mentioned earlier on. You were a newspaper, but you thought, okay, we could compete in this area, and then you are moving there. So that is innovation.
Okay.
That is thinking outside the box. That is going beyond just doing the normal. Always add, move forward, go forward, innovate, develop. Okay. That is what makes an economy to be a good economy.
You point to the issue of sincerity. If this is properly done, it's going to be a great deal. Yeah. So, but most times what we've seen is we say one thing and we do it differently.
Well, that is not my problem. That is their problem. That's why I'm worried myself.
I'm headed somewhere. I'm headed somewhere. You know, one will wonder that for a report that has been there for quite a while, you know, all of a sudden, it's the eve of election, and we are thinking about, implementing that report, is there any implication for that? And how practical is it anyways?
Well, I don't know, because I don't know the thoughts behind doing it now. If you heard what I said earlier, I said it takes a lot of courage, and I give them kudos for trying to do it. However, I think like you are thinking that, why now? But we don't know. We can only second guess. So, and I hate second guessing, because anything I say here now is just thinking. It is not born out of any facts, any figures, because I don't have it. Okay. See, the truth is, I think it was the Jonathan government that commissioned. Okay, it was Yar'Adua that commissioned the Orisoni report, but I think it died before it was concluded, and then the Jonathan government inherited it. They didn't do anything about it. The Buhari government came in the first 4 years, they didn't do anything about it. And like you rightly pointed out, in the next 3-4 months now, this government will have only 1 year in office. So I don't know how feasible it is. I don't know how practicable it is, but hold on. But I think what could have pushed them to this point is that the cost of governance is ballooning beyond any reasonable imagination. Just a few years ago, about 2 years ago, they created a Northeast Development Commission. I think the Southeast people are also shouting they wanted or they want something similar. See, these are the problems. We keep creating and duplicating efforts, even when it is not necessary. And as if that is not bad enough, we keep creating institutions that are not going to help us. And I'll give you an example. In the recent past, we've approved God knows how many universities and polytechnics and institutions. All these things are federal. Already, ASU has been a huge problem to this country and the economy. What ASU alone demands and asks for, it makes no sense in terms of the figure. And now you are creating more institutions, and then you are going to employ more ASU, and then you are going to need more money. And I just saw the school fees yesterday of Tafawa Balewa University. They are resuming. Somebody posted it somewhere and I saw it. And I'm like, this is not realistic. How can you train a medical doctor paying 80,000 naira? It is completely not realistic. So we are not thinking like a people. We are trying to run a capitalist economy using a social system model, using a socialist model, and it is not going to work. We need to define where we are. Are we a capitalist? Are we a socialist? Are we a communist? What exactly are we running? It's a mixed, and even in the mix, we are not doing it properly. If we want to run a mixed economy, we should have a focus that this area will be completely capitalist. This area will be socialist to an extent, but we're just doing a mismatch.
Okay, recently the president granted several interviews, and, a couple of interviews rather, and he mentioned,
2 specifically.
Yes, a couple. And he made reference to something that he seemed to be very, very
passionate about.
Passionate, very strong. Having very strong opinion about
and that's
the fact that people have to go back to the lands as his way of revamping the economy and making it to work for all Nigerians and all of that. I want to get your thoughts on that. He talks about 2.5% arable lands being used and all that. So how far are we just realizing that? I mean, we've been talking about
to be fair to this president,
for as long as I can remember.
To be fair to this president, he has, from day one, his focus have always been agriculture. And to also be fair to him, no government in recent years have invested more in agriculture than he has invested. However, the results are not good. And the reason is not far-fetched. I just give an example of the CBN. We have the Bank of Agriculture, we have NARSA, we have several other agencies for agriculture. But is anybody looking into these agencies? What exactly are they doing? We hear billions being spent on agriculture. Who has actually queried or interrogated those billions? The answer blows in the wind. To be fair to this president, He has empowered, and I think the style he employs is that he gives you an assignment and he does not micromanage you.
Which is the same issue with the previous government. That
He
many
doesn't
people have
micromanage
pointed.
you. He gives you the free will to run as you wish. However, I don't think Nigerians have shown enough maturity when they are not micromanaged. Honestly, the figures that has been poured into agriculture is enough for us to be food sufficient. And I will tell you why he's focusing on agriculture. You see, we can shout of economy every day, but the moment you bring down food inflation, every other thing will naturally be fine. Because the Yoruba also have a good adage that says the moment hunger is taken out of your poverty is almost as good as over. Do you get my point? You see, housing is a basic need, clothing and all those things. But you see, people can live with basic housing, with basic clothing, but nobody can go to bed without eating. So if food is taken out of our problem, so that is why he's been focusing on agriculture. And it's not a bad idea, but two things that I see is the one I just mentioned. The agencies that have been created have been completely in shambles and nobody's querying it. Monies that have been poured in, nobody's looking. And because it is so bad, CBN is now directly involved in agriculture. And this is even the biggest danger. CBN is not a development bank. We have Development Bank of Nigeria, we have NERSA, we have Bank of Agriculture. What exactly are their roles in helping to curb food inflation? That is number one. The second problem is the numbers. Mr. President also said something, if you listen to those interviews properly, he's talking about machinery, he's talking about tractors, and so we really don't need numbers in agriculture. In some of the most developed countries, in the US for instance, the number of people involved in agriculture is less than 3.something%. Yet they feed the entire country and they still export. So you don't need huge number of people in agriculture. All of us in this office does not need to go to the farm. Only you can manage a farm that can feed the entire country. So that is where I am worried that the money spent on agriculture, what exactly have we spent it on? Have we spent it on training, on development? Have we spent it on research? Because also, you can't continue to use the same kind of seed to get the same kind of yield. In agriculture, you need to develop the seed so that a little investment in seedling will yield more. For instance, probably a normal seed of maize will give you 2 or 3 head of corn. You can now have a seed that will give you a full tree that maybe 10. Right. So in one seed before you will get, let's say, a cup. Now in a seed, if it's well developed, you get a bucket. No, those are some of the things so nobody is asking these questions. We just keep throwing money at these problems and it will not be solved if we don't ask the question, the money that has been spent, how and where were they spent?
Okay. Now, if really we are to see this report through, what should we do, differently? Because in recent times, you get to hear reports of ghost workers popping up and all of that. What should Nigeria do?
I think for the ghost worker thing, this government dealt with it very well. Under the leadership of the president, but under the former minister, the first one in this government in finance, Kemi, I can't remember her surname now.
Adeosun.
Thank you, Kemi Adeosun. I think they dealt very well with the ghost worker stuff. You asked this question, and I've already answered you earlier, and I'm going to answer you again. I use the word sincerity. You see, what we've been doing in Nigeria is always the right thing, but we never do it with sincerity of purpose. If there is sincerity of purpose, if there is honesty, it will be properly achieved, but somebody will bring his own agenda there. It's a time to remove people of a region I don't like. It's a time to remove people of a religion I don't like the moment I'm the one in charge. Now, these are the challenges. So if we want to implement the report, then let's implement it blindly. When I say blindly, that means you are colorblind. You're not looking at your religion, your region, your ethnicity, it's completely devoid of that sincere implementation. Then we will now maybe say we've done well. However, like I said, sincerity, I don't know their sincerity level. I don't have a sincerity meter to test. So it is their problem, not mine. I'm just an ordinary Nigerian. But I will wish that there is sincerity in implementation of this, because we have reached a point where we cannot continue to lie to ourselves. The system is over bloated. We can't continue to carry. We have been borrowing to do a lot of infrastructure. If we don't handle this thing properly, maybe we'll begin to borrow to pay salaries too.
Okay.
And we can't afford that.
Okay, now another one closely related to this is the fact that, you know, in recent times we've had, you know, complaints about corruption, I mean, in the civil service, and how that we have seen recruitments that do not follow, you know, due process. We've seen, you know, boards at loggerheads with heads of, you know, government agencies and all of that due to certain demands.
Minister having issue with agency leaders.
And all of that. So, how is corruption playing a part?
Yeah, the first problem we need to deal with in this issue of corruption in civil service is to, you see, the civil service law is obsolete. In the current Nigerian civil service law, it's obsolete. It needs to be changed. You can't hire people that you cannot fire. You get my point? You get civil servants who knows, because the way the system is structured, except they are caught 100% in the cookie jar, they will find their way out. You remember all the ones who created so much problem for Abuja that El-Rufai fired when he was the minister of Abuja? They went to the court and got themselves reinstated. Because the civil service rule is so lax, it gives too much room. So we need to first and foremost overhaul the law governing the civil service. It has to be more dynamic. That is why the banks, the telecoms company, and some other private sector companies are doing better than the civil service, because there is a system that works. You get my point? The civil service don't have such system. People can do anything and get away with it. That is the challenge, because we have this belief that government thing is everybody's thing. But it's never going to do that. We have to have sense of ownership, knowing that whatever government is running, whatever property we think is government, is ours. So we need to get to that point where we have that sense of ownership. And like I also said earlier on, the civil service law should be changed, updated to meet international standards. Our civil service law is not working as it were.
Would you say that that's why maybe fighting corruption has become so difficult?
Because it is easy to hide behind the system. Yes, in the system. It is easy. Do you have a friend who has bidded for something in any agency? Go and ask them, they will tell you their stories. Or if you have any reason to deal with any agency, especially ministry, go find out. It doesn't work. But if you have an issue with a bank, you know the line to complain to. And if they don't handle it, they know that they will be fine. But before you say NLC will come and jump in the fray, everybody will. It's so easy to hide behind the corrupt system. The system needs to be completely overhauled. The laws, the enabling laws, everything needs to be overhauled. This Nigerian civil service is built right now to be inefficient.
And also another issue is the issue of politics. You know, in politics and governance, it's almost as if you cannot separate the two.
No, but you really can't separate that.
You know, and here you have political appointees heading some of these government agencies and all of that, and they are supposed to account to their superiors, maybe whether ministers and then maybe by extension the president. Now, the president, when he came to the office in 2015, is seen as this anti-corruption giant and all of that. And we have had several cases where people have erred, you know, in corruption allegations pointed at them and all of that, and it becomes very difficult to hold them to account. You know, why is that so?
I just mentioned it. You are just making me to repeat myself. I said it earlier on. The way the system is built is such that I think an angel will struggle to rule or to lead this country. An angel of God will struggle, sincerely. The human beings in that place have built up their... See, I have had some dealings with them. I don't want to go into specifics. But honestly, the way Nigerian civil service is built, I don't want to call God and blaspheme, but I think an angel of God will not succeed in our system if we do not revamp the place. And somebody told me something, and I think I'm beginning to agree with the person. I was saying we need to change. I said, look, no matter what you say, if you don't have a system that works, nothing. And I read a little story about a child who just got into a school in the United States, and then all the people that are involved, from the police to check his background, the Ministry of Finance to put him on the food, the lunch, whatever, to the Ministry of Education, to the Ministry of Transport to take care of his boss. The system was completely working for just one boy. Here, no, I'm not sure if you call the principal of a school today, he doesn't know the number of students he has, let alone a minister knowing the number of people working under them. So we have a system that is not working. And it doesn't matter your sincerity or lack of. You are going to face this challenge. The level of corruption is so easily exacerbated because the system is designed to be so. Until we have a complete mindset change that we need to. Because you see, people are running the country believing that they can take out of the country, forgetting that when you keep eating from a pot and you don't go and fix and add more, one day the pot will become empty. That is what is going on with our system.
From the way you sound now, it's like Nigeria's problem is unsurmountable. It's so huge that it cannot be fixed.
Before, when I was in Lagos, I could easily sit down and talk. Now that I've been in Abuja for a few years, and I've had reason to interact directly with some ministries and agencies, bro, I fear for this country. And the worry for me is that people are not seeing the sense of urgency. People that are involved are so entrenched that they can't see the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is you sit down and say, oh, Buhari is making us suffer. But it's not about Buhari, it's about us. If me get an office, and I think it's the all be all, and the people behind me, everybody think, it's time to chop. And everybody is just stealing left, right, and center. How do you want to blame the president? What exactly does the man, what can he do? That it is replicated in every agencies, ministries, and departments. We are in trouble with the quality of mindset our people take into any public sector. It is not about the appointee this time around. It's about the people working there themselves. You get you bid for a job and people tell you, oh, sell this thing now. If you don't sell, they will frustrate you all the way from the day you start executing the contract to the last point. So that the next time you have to bid with their own insight. So a lot of things are so wrong. So we need to overhaul. The system is completely ready for a complete overhaul. As it were right now, one day it will crumble and there will be no way out for us. Wow. So for us as a people, for us as a country, that is why it is worrisome when you see our young people running abroad. All the best are running, and nobody is seeing the danger. I was reading a material from my wife. She's a medical doctor, and there was a material recently I just read. The number of Nigerian medical doctors in the United Kingdom alone is over 50,000 as we speak. In fact, there is a particular set in a particular university. They did a reunion about 2 years ago. 90% of medical doctors of that set are in UK as we speak. An entire set. You know, like you said, 92 sets. Now, you know what I mean by an entire set of medical graduates. About 90% of them are in the United Kingdom working. And it is replicated in so many areas. Right now, the IT guys, the smart ones, are running away. Very soon, one day you will look at yourself and will just remain a backward country. Nigeria is so blessed. We have all the things that can make Nigeria a first world country. But do we have the will? Not just the political will, but as a people ourselves. I was driving yesterday on this your Jabi area, and the red light stopped me and I stopped. And then when it was time to go, the people that were coming, it has stopped them. They refused to. Now, those are simple things, but it tells me how you think.
In fact, they begin to look at you as if maybe something is wrong with you.
The man was running. He was going to hit me if I don't wait for him. And I already had the green light. He had the red light. But he was not going to wait. He has to go. These are simple but very germane issues. If people don't have a mindset change, it doesn't matter what the president does. It doesn't matter what the minister does. If we as a people don't see it as, this is our problem. If we don't deal with this country properly and make it work, someday we will not have a country. Forget agitation for secession. That's not our major problem. Our major problem is people giving opportunities to fix a system, but who see it as an opportunity to reward just themselves. It's a danger. But one day, this thing that we are saying, in a few years ago, we were talking about, oh, very soon the poor will have nobody to eat, nothing to eat but the rich. In the last 5, maybe, I don't know how old you are, but if I tell you in 20 years ago, that we will not be able to drive freely on our roads, you will not agree with me, right? Mm-hmm. But today, how many of us can boldly enter our car and drive from here to Zaria? How many? You will be driving with trepidation in your heart because the monsters that we were nurturing then have finally grown now to come and consume us. It is not about the president. It's not about the government. It's about ourselves as a people. When people see a system that they should make to work. You remember in 1980, I mean 70 something, we were put at par with Malaysia, with Singapore, as all of us were supposed to be at par. We're supposed to be peers then. Today, where are those countries? Where are we today? It is not because those countries have grown or anything. It's because of the quality of mindset of the people. Our mindset is such that I will destroy this place and I will run abroad. Wow. Everybody who you put people in any place to fix a system, the only thing they are thinking of is to steal. You say, okay, I was talking about CBN and NASA and other places. Mm-hmm. You put people there, go back and check their net worth when you put them there to what it is today. Nobody is talking about these things. And today, farmers are still complaining. Food, the price of food is still soaring, but we have agencies that should have dealt with this thing. But they didn't do it. People got there and suddenly they became wealthy. People who never had international passport before they got to a position, today they travel and have meetings everywhere all over the world. What is the result of those meetings? Nothing. It's because somebody wants to collect extra code, because somebody wants to just chop. It is a dangerous system we are running, a system without accountability, because the law covers people to behave as they wish. And when people have opportunity to actually expose this thing, you see that is their brother, is their friend, or he has paid them to look the other way. Well, so it's a danger we are sitting on.
We hope that the country turns out.
No, because I used to be very, very optimistic. But I have interacted with people. I don't have optimism again. I'm scared. Because I keep telling everybody, I don't have 2 passports. I have only 1. Great. I don't want this country to be destroyed. But I'm scared. I was in Lekki last week. I was driving, and I see all these small children running around, begging on the street. I talked to somebody, I said, these are the next set of Boko Haram. We are grooming them already. We are grooming the next set of Boko Haram. And then if you stop there on that road, you see all these young men will be pouring water on your glass. They want to wash it. For how many years did they do that?
Well, really do hope the country.
Well, we keep praying, we keep putting everything in the hands of God, but God will not come to solve a problem that you and I have the intellect to solve. God is not foolish. God gave us the brain to solve problem, but we refuse to use our brain. We now say God will do it. What kind of nonsense thing that we do? We use religion to hide our inefficiencies.
Well, we really all need to play our part.
Everybody has got a part. We should not sit down and say the president, the minister, the governor. No, they have their part. I won't lie about that. It is their job. They took the job. But beyond them, we as human beings, the way our mind works is such that we must be looking at how to develop our country. If we don't think about developing our country, one day we will not have a country again.
Thank you so much for coming on the program. We've been speaking with a political economist, Ayo Ayalowo, here in the studio. We hope to have you next time.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome. All right, now let's take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll talk about AFCON. It's about to go down, in Cameroon, and Nigeria, our own national team, is there as well. So we'll be joined, by analysts to talk about this. Please stay with us. right, thank you for staying with us. Now, let's talk about AFCON. The 2021 Africa Cup of Nations is set to finally get underway as a host of Premier League stars leave their clubs in pursuit of international glory. The tournament was delayed for a year due to the coronavirus pandemic and wet weather concerns, but it is now set to start this weekend. Now, the 2021 AFCON was initially due to be held in June and July 2021, but has been put back to early 2022. The third edition of the Africa Cup of Nations is scheduled to take place in Cameroon from Sunday, January 9 to Sunday, February 6, 2022. Now, in the studio with us is our sports correspondent and presenter Adeni Ajishafe to give us perspectives on this. Welcome, Adeni.
Yeah, good to have him. Yeah, thank you very much. Looking at the fact that AFCON is in the air and everyone wants to at least see what's going to happen. Their country participating. You have 24 nations participating in this. That will be participating in this 33rd edition of AFCON. AFCON started in 1957. Let's maybe take you down memory lane a bit. 1957, although it was mooted in 1956 when CAF was actually proposed at the FIFA Congress in Lisbon, Portugal. But after that, 1957, AFCON started, and it was hosted by Egypt. Egypt was the first nation to host, and also they won it. Egypt, Sudan, and also Ethiopia. But South Africa was supposed to play, but due to the fact that they were insisting on featuring all-white team, and then CAF said no, they won't take this, so they were disqualified. So 3 teams played: Egypt, Sudan, Ethiopia. Egypt scooped it, and they made history. So as we speak right now, if you check the record of AFCON, Egypt have been the most, the nation that has won the most with 7 wins. And you have Cameroon, you have Ghana alongside. So when you talk about countries like Nigeria, we've won it 3 times: 1980, 1994, and 2013. And you look at, if I should come down to Nigeria now, let's leave Africa and let's talk about Nigeria. Nigeria performance in AFCON started in 1963. As at that time, Nigeria were known as Red Devils and all that. But as we speak right now, we've won it 3 times, as I said earlier. In 1980, Otto Gloria took us and we were able to do it. The likes of Christian Chukwu, I'm sure you heard that about that name, Christian Chukwu, the one they call the chairman. He was the, in fact, outstanding player in that particular squad in 1980. Segun Odegbami, also a name that almost everybody then wants to bear the name Odegbami. The likes of, yes, Lawal and all that.
All right, let's talk about the Super Eagles. You know, how prepared, do you think that the Super Eagles are, for this year's AFCON?
Okay, transferring that to 2022 now, I think the Super Eagles that we actually have now, well, before this tournament, right now as we speak, the main team list that we submitted had to be adjusted because some players got injured, some couldn't come. The likes of Emmanuel Dennis Bonaventure couldn't make it due to the fact that his club did not release him, citing the fact that Nigeria requested for him late. Osimhen, the man that really wanted to spearhead our attack, got injured and also contracted COVID-19. Aside that, Odion Igalo's club, Al-Shabaab, are saying, well, we won't release him because of so many issues coming up there. But for the squad now being adjusted, you have the likes of Peter Olayenka coming in, Sadiq Kumar. Players are beginning to at least being replaced. They were replaced. And for this particular squad, we are seeing youthfulness. We are seeing people that are just coming for the first time. The likes of Taiwo Awoniyi, they want to show their own talent so that they can do it. The fact that they were not there before, this is the time for them to show that, yes, it wasn't a fluke. We are being picked. We know this business of football. Looking at Super Eagles score right now, a lot of people might want to write them, but I believe that they can spring up surprise.
Right. As analysts have actually beginning to predict, Nigeria and Morocco will be having great playoffs as well. Is that?
That's Egypt. Egypt is the first team we're going to face in our group. Group D, we have Nigeria, Egypt, Sudan, and Guinea-Bissau. And that group, if you want to look at it, as people always say on paper, you want to pick Egypt and Nigeria. You understand? But really, there are no more minnows in football. So you don't underrate Sudan, you don't underrate Guinea-Bissau. These are teams that qualifying for the Nations Cup is not a child's play. So that means all the 24 teams are ready for business. So as we speak right now, Nigeria should not be complacent. I'm talking about Super Eagles now. Don't underrate Sudan, don't underrate Guinea-Bissau. We are facing Egypt on Tuesday, 11th of January. The first that will be our first match against Egypt. Attention is on Mo Salah, El Neni and all the guys, Trezeguet and all that. The guys are playing Aston Villa. But I think the entire squad of Egypt, they are ready because majority of them play in Egypt. Majority, in fact, only 5 players that plays in another country. If we look at the Egyptian team, and you look at Guinea also, Guinea-Bissau, we have to be very, very careful because majority of these players also play in Europe. They know our players very well. And Sudan, their league is very, very strong. Sudanese league. So you look at majority of the players coming from Al Khartoum and all the teams there, Al Ittihad and all that. But you just have to look at the Super Eagles. The psyche on the head of the players right now is that, okay, even though we have been given the chance, we were not given the chance, but now that we have been called, let's prove a point to Nigerians at home or in diaspora that we can do this business.
Okay. All right. Now, you talking about the composition of, the team that we have. Some of our players that play, abroad and all of that. What are some of the issues, of why we are not having them aboard, as we should?
Well, I think, I said earlier, the stars that we wanted to play, most of them, due to one injury, clause complaint, like Watford now, they said we didn't reach out to Emmanuel Dennis earlier. That was why they didn't. And if we check the whole strikers in Europe, aside Osimhen before he got injured, Emmanuel Dennis seems to be the most outstanding striker from Nigeria right now. But, well, it wasn't to be. That's just the point. And for Ighalo's case is becoming worrisome because of the fact that I just learned that he's not even ready to train with his team because he's not happy that they didn't allow him to come for AFCON right now. He's not happy. But we'll have at least be able to use his experience as a player. He has been there before. He has scored goals there. You can easily talk to the younger one, hey, this is how we do this and all that. But it's not there. But I believe that just like what you said, the composition on the head of our players, the European player, those who won't give it the chance now is that let me prove to Nigerians and the whole world that this opportunity I've gotten, I have to take it.
We also understand that there's this, high-powered delegation of Nigerians, that will be, going there and all of that. How is that going to impact on the morale, of the players and all that?
Maybe that question should be answered by the spokesman of the presidency. but really, to be candid, each country, each nation that comes for AFCON or any competition always send delegation. But as our own is not as if it's a big deal, but it's just that Nigerians, the way we take things at times. But I only look at it in another way. That delegation is good. It's good. They go there to pep talk them, to encourage them, to give them that moral support. You can do it. But I believe, all the monies that we put in that particular delegation can be channeled towards something because the coaching crew, the technical crew, they are good enough to go with the players. Although it's always good to send people there. I'm not condemning.
Maybe to cheer the team.
Cheer the team, yes. But we have fans that cheers them with their drums and all that. Yeah, seriously. But it's always good that the people in power, let me use that word, the people that are in governance can at least go there. When they see those big men and big women, they can say, okay, these people are here to tell us that we should do it. After all, Mr. President is waiting for the cup, which is very possible.
And I hope that this time we don't have issues with welfare of the players.
No, but that's not an issue now. Welfare is not an issue. But my prayer and my hope is that Super Eagles will really be spiced up enough to do this business because it's always like that when you write them off, they just bring us surprises. For all the tournament we've performed or we've won, we had less expectations from them and they actually surprised us. So this time around, maybe, like I said, it could be a blessing in disguise.
We do really hope to bring back the cup.
Exactly. So I just hope that this opportunity will be the one that will. In 2013, nobody gave Eagles a chance, and they scooped the cup. So this time around, who knows?
All right, Adeni, if you want to hear all about that, watch 360 Sports here later on Trust TV, and that starts from 10 a.m. You get all the gist, once that he's not able to say here, on the show. Thank you so much for coming, Adeni.
Thank you for having me
on Daybreak today. All right, with that, we wrap up the show for today.
See you. Very interesting.
Yes, you can also catch up on our YouTube and also connect with us via our social media handles. And also tomorrow there will be Daybreak Extra, and as well as Sunday. So do stay with us. You can watch that by 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. And the same for Sunday. Well, thank you so much. We look forward to having you join us again. From me, it's a bye for now. My name is Ayubek.
And I'm Zainab Bala.